Hello there, and welcome back to War Thunder aboard an Italian beauty, the RN Andrea Doria, which is of the Duilio class and in its 1930 configuration. I love the ship, it's fantastic, and this is why you should not grind it. If this doesn't make sense, let me quickly explain everything brought together into a nutshell. The ship is broken, not in a good way, and you have to grind with the Italians, which have awful destroyers and awful cruisers. And there are only two battleships, the RN Andrea Doria, and obviously the good old RN Dante Alighieri. Both ships are a bit similar, obviously. They share the caliber, the guns, effectively, the firepower, and they both have a battle rating of 6.3, and the new top battle rating is 7.0, which means that at times you can find yourself in battles like these where you have to oppose nothing but cruisers, and man, do you love to shoot at cruisers, and my god, do they explode. And yes, the nice new explosion effects are just icing on the cake. Fantastic. So let's start at the very basics. What is the ship made out of? What is the firepower, etc. So the ship is not particularly fast. It's a dreadnought with 39 kilometers per hour. It has nearly 25,000 tons of displacement. The armor belt is on its thickest part 230 millimeter. That is just at and below the waterline. Slightly above we have 220 millimeters, and very high we have 150 millimeters, as well as for the casemates. Then we have an icebreaker, and also at the bow we have a complete distributed armor scheme with somewhere ranging between 80, 90, 110 and 120 millimeters up to 130 millimeters. The barbettes are also pretty strong, at least what you see is 240 millimeters on the sides, and to the front and rear it's 230 millimeters. The turret front is 280 millimeters, with the turret roofs being 85 millimeters. We have upper deck of 30 millimeters, when we have then below a deck of 12 millimeters. We also have at the inside a relatively, I would say, let's make it 40 degrees turtleback, but only 20 millimeters. But in the middle of the ship, so between the super firing front and the super firing rear turrets, we have also coal bunkers. That means, in theory, this ship should be somewhat resilient, especially if you angle it. Although you have to be careful because there is only 130 millimeters of bulkhead area at the front and the rear. But there is also an additional wave breaker of 130 millimeters at the front, and some additional front before the front barbette. So also the lower part of the barbette is then between 130 over 140 and 180 millimeters thick. However, the problem is that the magazines seem to be right at the waterline. The turtleback doesn't seem to work, and if you're not angling, every battleship can hit the really big magazines. So they are really prominent, and because you have 5 turrets, they are basically spread across the ship. So it's very similar to the Iron Duke class, the HMS Marlborough, in that aspect. However, let's talk about the really cool part, and that is the main battery, because you have 13 12-inch guns. You have 2 twin guns, which are the 2 super firing ones in the front and the rear, so turret number 2 and turret number 4, if you will. And then we have 3 triple ones, which are turret number 1, 3, and 5. Now, I could go here with the English designation of A, B, Y, Z, and Q turret, but I don't. So then we also have the secondaries, which are 16 152 millimeter guns. That's formally the same firepower, secondary wise, as you get from the SMS Bayern, which has so far the best secondaries in terms of anti-ship purpose, if you will, nominally. but you're also backed up by a whole lot of 76mm guns, 13 plus 6, and even two 40mm, and you even have the good old anti-Admiral Hipper class torpedoes, the 450mm Whitehead A110/450 torpedoes, 6 of them, and they have really like diagonally forward-facing torpedo tubes, one on each side, and they are built into the front magazine basically. So not bad, not bad. Then there's the reload, and that's a little bit of a mixed bag, because for the main battery it is 30 seconds. That's not bad. I mean, there are other ships, absolute reload monsters, like the Scharnhorst with its 11-inch guns with 17 seconds, and I think it's 20 seconds for the Kronstadt with its overpowerful fantasy 12-inch guns, but 30 seconds for 13 guns is nice, right? But the secondary reload is 17.2 seconds. As I mentioned, for 6-inch guns, that's the same reload. Again, 17.2 seconds for the best crew, fully trained, ace qualification, everything. 17 seconds for the secondaries, and that is the same reload as the Scharnhorst 11-inch guns or some American old school 8-inch guns on their not so great heavy cruisers, especially, you know, the ones with the tightly fitted triple turrets. So a little bit of a mixed bag, but the firing angles are good, and you can bring 8 guns relatively quickly to bear if you face a little bit to the front left, a little bit to the front right. So that's really cool. Now, what's the ammunition? Well, that is actually a mixed bag. You see, the battle rating changes have moved stuff a little bit around. And this means that you're actually pretty powerful with your 305mm SAP rounds, which are the stock rounds. 861 meters per second mass velocity, and 418 millimeters of penetration at 1000 meters, and at 10 kilometers still 224 millimeters, and you bring 31 kilograms of TNT to the battlefield. I know it's not the magic wannabe super awesome Russian 12-inch guns with their fantasy shells, or the Huger's 14-inch shells, or Bayern's, Schott, whatever. But for this battle rating, with 13 guns, that is really nasty versus cruisers. Now, I've tried also the 305mm AP round, which are a tier 3 modification, a tier 3 upgrade. And, you know, the stats are not bad. 861 meters per second mass velocity, 5.66 kilogram of TNT bursting charge, a fuse delay of 0.035 seconds, and also a penetration of 673 millimeters, and at 1000 meters still, and at 10 kilometers, sorry, still 387 millimeters. But, you know, you do not really damage enemy battleships with them unless you score a magazine hit. And this is why it's actually better to use the SAP round all the time. So the problem with this ship is it's really good versus cruisers, but this is true for most battleships, and I would argue that the Scharnhorst is even better because it can survive in a brawl with its torpedoes better, has better armor, and has better armor and also a faster reload. Yeah, the ammunition is maybe a little bit worth discussing, but you get the idea. The problem for the Scharnhorst is, and I found this a little bit hilarious when I saw it, the Scharnhorst's battle rating is now 7.0. That's fantastic. And the Andrea Doria is now at a battle rating of 6.3 at introduction. That is the same as the Westfalen, the Helgoland, and the Kaiser, and the Fondertan. So the power spread at 6.3 within the German tech tree is insane. And this ship is, out of all the mentioned German ships, as the Italian ship obviously, in my opinion, the best one firepower-wise. It might not have the best DPM because it doesn't have 20-second reload, but the SAP rounds really hit cruisers hard, as you could see in the gameplay. And there is a reason why I show you this gameplay, because at the start I did a trick that I didn't show you. I spawned in with a patrol boat, okay? I was killed by a destroyer that just happened to be there. But I wasn't there in the first minute. I wasn't focus fired. I spawned in when the cruisers were focusing on something else. I just stood still and I killed them at the start. That is the secret of this ship. And it works really well. And then I get hit and I get randomly blown up by an Atlanta. 5-inch guns. And it was pretty well angled versus them, right? So that is how broken the ship is. 5-inch HE shells, a couple of hits, and it seems like there is some armor degradation mechanic, or armor is underperforming, or has some significant holes that are not shown in the X-ray or the armor view, or the shells just go through the armor. I don't know what it is. Maybe they're also diving through the water again. I don't know. But this is the really frustrating part, where patch after patch, battleships are really, really vulnerable. They are really, really bad, and to just die like flies when they get HE spam. I've done it myself versus every battleship. I've one-shot Scharnhorsts with Helena HE salvos. I have killed every single battleship that I've ever saw on the battlefield with an HE spam faster than I killed enemy cruisers or even the American destroyers with it. Now, that is broken. And this is why this ship is just breaking my heart. It's a beauty. It's fantastic. But it just doesn't work. And it's not the ship's fault. It's really, really infuriating. And I'm sorry. I would really love to show you really gameplay where angling, where tanking, where just making good decisions pays off, where I could show any sort of skill that I might or might not have. But this is just such a lazy design. And naval forces, while technically still being hidden in beta, has seen a constant degradation. I could just rant about this for a very long time. The TLDR is, it's broken. And I'm sorry that I cannot show you anything else. I tried, but at some point I have to cut my losses. Because the ship also costs 24,000 Silver Line repair costs fully upgraded. And I think that this is way too expensive. Actually, it's 35,000. So that's it from me today. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please give it a like with it. Subscribe if you want to see more. For you, it's just a click. For me, it means the world. And as usual, we'll see each other on the battlefields, in the skies, and on the waves of War Thunder.